Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 3, and in this video presentation, we will present about Hofstede cultural dimension and its relation with the article that already given by lecture. And the member of this group is me, Fabiyan, Junino, Elindika, Aulia, Azzahra, Muhammad Suki, Samsinar, and Yuliana. And the first material will be delivered by Suki about power disdain and uncertainty avoidance.
Power descent. Power descent is the extent to which individual with a lower rank of society accept and apply the power is unequally distributed. This means power descent indicate in reality in society the power, institution, or distributed organization unfairly reflected into the value. The power descent described as a copy between two poles, low power and high power. For example, like military or large law firm or country like Russia, very strong political hierarchy is expected thing of relationship of general in military. To enlisted soldiers or senior law partner to marry associate or put to higher space. In high power decent culture, every person has defined place and role. In low power distance culture, say a unionized workforce or legal service organization or a country like Norway, there are strong expectations of equality in power and then making decisions and benefit and other work conditions. So, it can be concluded the power distance is superior and subordinate. Most power distance culture by different position, power, and financial ability. Because superior have power is higher than subordinate and often occur in general company. Uncertainty avoidance is one dimension of the culture. Values related to uncertainty, one of the things that can give a risk to ambiguous and uncertain circumstance is a chance. Everyone has different in interpreting the uncertain in their life. The very cultures has a different in terms of dealing with the uncertainty. Definition of uncertainty is the extent to which the member of the culture feel turned by ambiguous or unknown situation. People with a low UA generally feel their life are not uncertain, must take a risk in life, must have appropriate regulation, rules that are not appropriate should be changed or eliminated. A person with a high QA, they are usually feel comfortable when they are feel uncertainty about the present and future condition. In addition, people with a high QA consider uncertainty to be life-threatening and must always be focused. According to them, it is very important to have to stable and safe its life is very important to have written rules. Country with a low UA have a low anxiety. According to those living in country with a low UA, aggression and emotional should not demonstrate. In a contrast, people living in countries with a high QA level, they have a high anxiety. A person live in a country with a high QA is generally like a busy, restless, emotional, aggressive, and always suspicious. Meanwhile, someone come from a country with a low UA generally live boring and then easygoing, slowly controlled, and then lazy life.
Okay, thank you. I will continue the explanation about Hofstede cultural dimension. About the third dimension is individualism and collectivism. This cultural dimension can be defined as a preference for a loosely keen social framework in which individuals are expected to take care of only themselves and their immediate family. And about collectivism represent as preference for tightly keen framework in society in which individuals can expect their relatives of member of particular in-group to look after them in exchange for unquestioning loyalty. And about the characteristic of this cultural dimension is the first about individualism is First, everyone is supposed to take care of themselves or immediate family only. And the second is respect for privacy. And the third is other classified as individuals. And the fourth is a person's self-image in this category is defined as I. Jadi mereka lebih sering menggunakan kata ganti seperti saya daripada kami. And thus prevails over relationship. And about collectivism characteristics, the first is people are born into extended family or clans which protect them in exchange for loyalty. And the second is other classified as in-group or out-group. And the third is a person's self-image in this category is defined as we. Jadi kebalikan dari individualism tadi, mereka lebih prefer menggunakan kata ganti seperti kami untuk merepresentasikan diri mereka. And the fourth is relationship prevails over task. And the example from this cultural dimension, I take the Australia as individualism country and Indonesia as collectivism country. Seperti yang bisa dilihat dari diagram yang saya tampilkan pada presentasi ini, diagram tersebut saya ambil dari situs Hofstede Insight. Seperti yang bisa kita lihat bahwasannya angka persentase individualism dari negara Australia itu bisa mencapai 90%. Itu bisa terjadi karena seperti yang kita ketahui bahwasannya Australia itu adalah isi dari 80% dari masyarakat Australia itu adalah masyarakat pendatang dan bukan orang asli dari sana. Jadi mereka banyak mungkin dari Eropa ataupun Amerika, dan mereka tetap membawa culture mereka sendiri, yaitu lebih senang hidup individual dan tidak peduli terhadap kehidupan bermasyarakat yang berkelompok-kelompok seperti itu. Dan sedangkan Indonesia sendiri bisa kita lihat di sana angka individualismnya hanya mencapai 14%. Mengapa begitu? Seperti yang kita ketahui sendiri bahwasanya Indonesia adalah negara yang hidup secara bergotong royong dan mereka senang hidup dalam kelompok-kelompok tertentu dan saling membantu satu sama lain seperti itu. Jadi sikap individualism sangat ditolak di masyarakat Indonesia. And the fourth cultural dimension that I will explain is about masculinity and femininity. The masculine side of this dimension represents a preference in society for achievement, heroism, assertiveness, and material reward for success. And society at large is more competitive. And about femininity is stand for a preference for cooperation, modesty, caring for weak, and quality of life. And society at large is more consensus oriented. Dapat saya jelaskan di sini bahwasannya cultural dimension ini bukan mengacu kepada gender seseorang, yaitu perempuan ataupun laki-laki, namun cara mereka bersikap, cara mereka bekerja, dan cara mereka berkomunikasi satu sama lain seperti itu. And about the characteristic from this cultural dimension, the first is about masculinity, and the first characteristic of this cultural is work prevails over family, and the second is strong egos, feeling of pride and importance are attribute to status. And the third is money and achievement are important, and the fourth is man should be and woman may be assertive and ambitious. And about femininity, the first characteristic is balance between family and works, and the second is more focus on quality of life, and the third is man and woman should be modest and caring. Jadi dari femininity ini mereka lebih mementingkan kehidupan yang harmoni dan sebisa mungkin menghindari yang namanya kompetisi atau persaingan antar sesama mereka seperti itu. And for the example of this cultural dimension, I took Japan as a masculinity community in their country, and Indonesia as a femininity community in our country. Seperti yang dapat kita lihat dari diagram yang juga saya tampilkan pada presentasi ini, yang juga saya ambil dari Hofstede Insight, bahwasannya angka masculinity dari negara Jepang itu bisa mencapai 95%. Hal itu disebabkan karena masyarakat Jepang tersebut sangat tekun sekali bekerja, dan mereka bisa menekuni sebuah pekerjaan dari mereka muda hingga mereka tua, dan mereka hidup dalam kompetisi yang begitu ketat satu sama lain antar mereka. Jadi mereka itu memiliki etos kerja yang sangat tinggi. Dan juga selain itu, mereka juga terlihat lebih cuek dengan orang-orang di sekitar mereka, dan tidak mau berkumpul dengan orang-orang yang belum mereka kenal dan tidak ada kepentingan dengan mereka sendiri. Sedangkan di Indonesia sendiri, seperti yang kita ketahui bahwasannya seseorang itu bisa membalance antara pekerjaannya dengan juga urusan keluarganya. Jadi mereka tidak terlalu ambisius dan tidak terlalu fanatik terhadap sebuah pekerjaan yang mereka tekuni. Dan sama halnya juga dengan cultural dimension sebelumnya, bahwasannya masyarakat Indonesia itu lebih care terhadap mereka, dan juga senang sekali hidup berkelompok dan saling bantu-membantu seperti itu. Okay, thank you. I think that's all from my material, and the next material will be delivered by Yuliana.
And long-term orientation. So focus on the picture and involves dealing short-term and success or gratification in order to achieve long-term success. Long-term orientation, persistence, perseverance, and long-term growth. And next, a short-term orientation. Should focus on the near picture, involve delaying short-term success or gratification, and stranger, and a basis on the present than the picture, which result on respect. Short-term orientation of basis for tradition. And next characteristic, long-term orientation. People often wonder how know what is true. Truth and education seen as positive values, and next, virtues and obligation are exercised. In next, short-term orientation between people often want to know why. Next, service to others is an important goal. Tradition or sacred sense and application. Asian countries such as China and Japan are known for their long-term orientation. And next, about indulgence versus restraint. Indulgence is stand for a society that allows relatively free gratification of basic and natural human drive related to enjoying life and having fun. And next, about restraint. Restraint is a stand for a society that suppresses gratification opening and regulate it by means of strict social norms. And next characteristic about indulgence is higher percentage of people considering themselves very heavy. And next, freedom of speech seems important. And next, focus personal happiness. And about restaurant is fewer very happy people, and freedom of speech is not a primary concern. More are controlling and rigid behavior. And next application according to the model, Eastern European countries including Russia have low IVR score. These countries are characterized by a restrained culture where there is a tendency toward pessimism. People put little emphasis on leisure time, and Hofstede argues, as the little suggests, people try to restrain themselves to a hike, and I think that's all from me.
And next, it's about the article that I have read before, the perception and experiences of Korean social studies, pre-service teacher in an international teaching practicum. From there, I found pre-service teacher difficulties when teach in another country. During the interviews, 11 of 15 participants share their feelings of being challenged because of a language barrier and the adjustment to a new, different culture and society, especially for the participants who never go abroad before. And then let's analyze the difficulties based on the term of Hofstede's culture dimensions. Difficulties such as language barrier and the adjustment to a new and different culture and society relate to uncertainty avoidance, which is concerned with the level of stress in society in the face of unknown future, and it deals with a society's tolerance for ambiguity. Based on the characteristic of weak uncertainty avoidance, it is uncertainty inherent in life is accepted and each day is taken as it comes. One of participants, Jiwon, said, I had never been to a foreign country before, so I was first worried and afraid to go to a foreign country and live in a new environment. However, it was amazing to experience new cultures and a new community, which is I had just experienced before indirectly in Korean society. I was also surprised at myself because I was better at adapting to a new society than I had ever expected I could be. And next characteristic is tolerance of deviant persons and idea. What is different is curious. As the article said that the participants embrace the multiculturalism as a reality. As the result, by witnessing the cultural diversity and then interacting with people from different cultural and racial backgrounds, participants gain a better awareness of multiculturalism, which had been hard to obtain from just books in Korean teacher education classrooms. These experiences further led them to reflect more deeply on how to prepare themselves for teaching and learning in a culturally diverse setting when they become teachers in South Korea. Let's move to another dimension, that is power distance. According to education system in Korean classroom, they conduct teacher-centered education, which belongs to a large power distance. Vice versa, American classroom, they conduct student-centered education, which belongs to small power distance. The participants think that they can also conduct student-centered education in Korean classroom, but they should recognize the danger of blind imitation when adopting into their Korean classroom any teaching pedagogies that they observe and learn in American classroom. Instead, they can adapt the system which is appropriate with Korean classroom. Next dimension is long-term orientation. The characteristic is trying to learn from other countries. This program provides pre-service teachers an opportunity to increase their confidence and self-efficacy, appreciate different culture, and critically examine their cultural biases, develop global perspective, and enhance their professional skills and abilities to design curricula and develop different teaching strategies, and then discover more balanced pedagogical practice by having the opportunity to compare different education system between Korean classroom and American classroom. Last, for other dimensions such as Korean classroom, it belongs to individualism, which is the purpose of education is learning how to learn. Like students depend on teacher because they conduct teacher-centered education, which is teacher is the core of the knowledge. And then American classroom is belong to collectivism, which is the purpose of education is learning how to do. Like students are learning independently because they conduct student-centered education. And then indulgence and restraint, where Korean students have less leisure time because they are studying hard for university entrance, and it is a part of their educational culture. In the other hand, American students have more leisure time and can enjoy their youth. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, so I will explain the last part of this video. It's about Australian pre-service teachers' difficulties in teaching English at Thailand. And then the first one is the main problem that Australian pre-service teacher experience is a language barrier that led to communication barrier. This caused pre-service teacher to difficulty in teaching the students and deliver the materials. We can analyze it with uncertainty avoidance that pre-service teacher have necessary for clarity and structure conditions such as language. Unfortunately, Thai's host didn't realize that. And then the second one is the other frustration and confusion is that Thai school students did not conform to Western presumption of learning in silence. Several of pre-service teachers were taken aback by large classes of chattering, giggling students. The pre-service teachers also expressed surprise that during school assemblies, for example, a group of students would huddle some of their bags to whomever was addressing the student and talk amongst themselves. This behavior did not seem to be challenged or reprimanded by the teachers. If we look at the sixth dimension of Hofstede, this point represents two dimensions. The first one is uncertainty avoidance, that the Thai teachers and students were comfortable with ambiguity and chaos. That is one of the characteristics of weak uncertainty avoidance, while Australian pre-service teachers need for clarity and structure in that situation, which is one of the characteristics of strong uncertainty avoidance. And then the second one dimension that related to this difficulty is indulgence versus restraint. One of the indulgence characteristic is a perception of personal life control, and this point takes side of Thai student. It means Thai students control their own personal life and also has freedom of speech. Next, the third one is in power distance. There are small power distance and large power distance. One of the characteristics of small power distance is student-centered education, and one of the characteristics of large power distance is teacher-centered. As a pre-service teachers' experience in Thai school, the Thai English teachers may have felt unconfident in their English language skill and feared appearing inadequate in front of large power distance. One of the characteristics of small power distance is student-centered education, and one of the characteristics of large power distance is teacher-centered. As a pre-service teacher's experience in Thai school, the Thai English teachers may have felt unconfident in their English language skill and feared appearing inadequate in front of native speaker. This is why they often absent during pre-service teacher session in the class, and this is cause difficulty for pre-service teacher in planning the lesson. And then Thai children also show hesitation to make mistake publicly. This is show how in Thailand culture, they apply teacher-centered in learning, while Australia apply student-centered in how they do learning. The fourth difficulties is Australian pre-service teachers found another difficulties in teach Thailand children, that is, when they didn't understand an instruction, they would repeat what their teacher had just said. If there was nothing obvious to repeat, the student would simply clap and cheer. I assume we can analyze this problem through individual versus collectivism dimension. I can conclude that Thai children normally learned how to learn, not how to do. This situation gives pre-service teachers confusion since their purpose of education is learn how to do. The fifth one, or the last one of the students said teaching about Australia rather than English. This is state student disappointment. And then pre-service teachers' defense by gave comment that English of some their student was so limited that extended discourse was not possible, so they had to resort to very simple, relatively decontextualized content. Then I analyze this with long-term versus short-term orientation. I can say that Australia is applies short-term orientation because if they applied long-term orientation, they will prepare material that related to Thailand in teaching English, so students will comfortable in learning English with them because it's related to their own culture. Thank you.